The Deputy Prime Minister has already described in detail the content, the scope of the Ukraine-EU relation, and I will just touch upon a few issues which have to be tackled if we want to further the rapprochement between the European Union and Ukraine. To start with, I fully agree that a lot has been achieved over the last 3 years, and I share the views of those who consider that Ukraine has done far more in terms of political and economic reforms over the last 3 years than between 1992 and 2014. There is no doubt about that. It's a fact. This is a starting point. Second point, the integration of Ukraine into the European Union today is not on the agenda. Our objective, the objective of the association agreement, is the political association and the economic integration, but in no way the integration of Ukraine into the EU. And I insist on that because when you introduced the debate, you said we have now got the association agreement, the visa-free regime. What is the name of the next objective? The next objective should be to implement these two agreements, because the signature and the ratification does not mean anything for the average Ukrainian citizen. And we have today to translate this association agreement and this visa-free regime into the concrete life of the Ukrainian citizens. And for that, a lot of work has to be done. Having said that, I'm not telling you that Ukraine will never join the EU. Article 49 of the EU Treaty clearly states that any European country which fulfill a number of criteria related to fundamental freedoms, human rights, rule of law, can apply to the EU. And Ukraine is, without any doubt, a European country. I'm just telling you that today, our daily work should not be focused about promoting Ukraine integration in the EU, because this is not on our agenda. It should be to deepen the political association and to promote the economic integration of the Ukrainian economy in the EU single market. And this is on our agenda, and this is the most important thing that the EU can offer Ukraine today, if we want to dispel illusions. What does this mean? Integrating the Ukrainian economy in the EU single market means that we have to get rid, to remove all tariffs and non-tariff barriers which today exist in trade and investment between the EU and Ukraine. Tariff barriers, this is not a major issue. For all countries which are WTO member, and this is the case of Ukraine, customs duty are not that high, are not the main obstacle to trade and investment. The main obstacles are the non-tariff barriers, the technical barrier to trade. And for that, we have to harmonize the Ukrainian legislation with the EU one. Ukraine has to take over the thousands of EU laws, norms and standards in all sectors of the economy, not only the trade-related barriers, but barriers as well in areas such as intellectual property right, state aid, competition law, in all these areas which are linked one way or another to our trade regime. This will take years. If we are optimistic, we say it will take between 6 and 7 years. If we are realistic, And in the light of what we have been doing over the last 25 years with the countries of Central Europe, it will take even more than that. Ukraine has a lot of assets to do that. An extremely qualified human resources. There is no doubt that if you look at the people in the various ministries and you compare these people with the people we had to deal with in other countries in which we have been carrying out this exercise, in Ukraine you have a highly qualified people. This does not mean that we should not try to improve the capacity of the state administration, and we are doing that through our support to the reform of the public administration. But again, the people we have today in front of us are extremely qualified, and therefore this is an asset. We all know what the main obstacle is. The main obstacle is vested interests. I am working on a daily basis with the Deputy Prime Minister, with Maria Ionova, to ensure that we remove step by step all obstacles to the harmonization of legislation, but we face constantly obstacles. Most of these obstacles are not related to a limited administrative capacity, but to the so-called vested interests, which have shaped the society, economy, and political life of Ukraine for 22 years, between 1992 and 2014. And it will take time and a strong political will and tenacity to remove progressively these vested interests.